My name is Jack Morley. I'm 53 years old and have spent more than half of that time on the road. I don't believe in ghost stories or conspiracy theories. At least I didn't until that night on Route 37. It was nearly midnight when I stopped at an old, forgotten gas station in rural Arizona. Gas was expensive, the bathroom reeked of 2-day-old urine, and the clerk was asleep at the counter with a crackling radio in the background. I just needed to stretch my legs and grab some bitter coffee from the machine. It was in the bathroom that I found the tablet. It was sitting on the sink, covered in dust and with a cracked screen. The cover had the seal of the U.S. Highway Patrol. I figured some cop must have left it there during a quick stop. I picked it up with the intention of turning it in at the next station. I'm not the kind of guy who takes what isn't his. But it was only when I got back to the truck and started the engine that I noticed something strange. The tablet turned on by itself, no password. Just a directory of videos with cryptic names. On the home screen, a red notification flashed. Confidential, restricted access. If you found this, delete it. But I didn't delete it, and that's where the mistake lies. I parked the truck in an empty rest area, surrounded by a line of twisted trees, barely lit by the moon. Only the sound of the cooling engine filled the silence. I held the tablet on my lap for a few minutes, staring at that red warning. Damn curiosity of mine, I played the first video. It was an interview recorded in a dimly lit room. A man in a trucker uniform, face digitally blurred, spoke in a low voice. I saw the bodies at Stop 16 near Flagstaff. 3 of them lined up. All had their eyes gouged out. There was a symbol, painted with grease on each of their chests. The second video showed security camera footage at a remote rest stop. A truck pulled in at 3:12 a.m. The driver got out, looked around, then dragged a large black bag behind the building. Almost 2 minutes later, he reappeared, alone. The third video was the most disturbing, an audio clip, no images. Just a raspy male voice, laughing. Between the laughter, disjointed words. They send. Every 15 days, someone has to disappear. It's the deal, you understand. The road demands a toll. I tried to pause. The screen froze. The tablet began emitting a high-pitched noise, like it was malfunctioning. Then the screen flickered black and red. A phrase appeared. Unauthorized video, unidentified user, target marked. I threw the tablet onto the passenger seat and started the engine. I just wanted to leave, drop it in the middle of the road and forget. But something told me it was already too late for that. I kept driving down Route 37 like someone trying to escape a horrible nightmare. The tablet, now turned off, felt heavier than when I found it, as if it carried something more than just electronics. Almost 3 in the morning. The cabin lights were the only thing cutting through the absolute darkness. Not a car in sight, just the sound of tires on asphalt and my heart pounding in my throat. That's when I saw the first signs. A long, deep skid mark on the pavement, as if someone had stopped abruptly. Farther ahead, a traffic cone lying on the shoulder. And then, what looked like clothes. A pair of boots and a jacket abandoned on the roadside. As if someone had vanished into thin air, I slowed down. In the rearview mirror, for a second, I swear I saw headlights approaching. But when I looked again, there was nothing. Nothing but darkness and the subtle creak of the truck. Except the tablet, which had been off, lit up by itself. The screen flashed with a new notification. Record 08, last witness. My stomach turned. I tapped the notification with a trembling finger. The video showed the inside of a truck cabin, just like mine. The camera was shaky and a whispering voice said, "They're on the road. They follow you when you know too much." I closed the tablet, shoved it under the seat, and took a deep breath. Sweat was dripping down my back, even with the air conditioning on full blast. Then I noticed the passenger side window was fogged up, but I hadn't breathed there. Someone else had. The fog started to descend slowly, dense and thick. as if the road were being swallowed by silence itself. I drove a few more miles, trying to ignore what I had seen, or thought I had seen, on the glass. Maybe it was just fear playing tricks on my mind. Maybe. I decided to stop at an old phone booth near an abandoned intersection and left the tablet inside, beneath the phone base, like that could erase everything. I got back in the truck feeling relieved for the first time that night. That relief lasted 5 minutes. When I climbed into the cab and shut the door, there it was, the tablet on the passenger seat. No dust, no scratches, and the screen was on. Just one word displayed: continue. A car horn echoed behind me. A black sedan without plates slowly pulled up about 50 meters away. Its headlights lit up the back of my truck. I stayed still, watching through the mirror. No doors open. No windows rolled down. Then the door to my truck was violently yanked open. 3 men dressed in black climbed in with guns drawn. One of them shouted, "Where is the device?" I threw it into gear and slammed the accelerator. The truck screeched and skidded on the wet asphalt, nearly tipping on the sharp curve. I heard gunshots behind me, shards hitting the side mirror. I did what any seasoned trucker would do. Turned off the headlights and followed only the interior lights, cutting through an alternate route on the GPS, a route that shouldn't have been there. But the black car was still behind me. The chase lasted hours, though it felt like an eternity. Every dimly lit turn, every rusted sign, every abandoned cross on the shoulder seemed to remind me, this road has taken many before me. At one point, I tried to exit the route, but realized something even more disturbing. The GPS was locked. The only direction it allowed was forward, as if it were guiding me somewhere, as if it was all inevitable. That's when I spotted an old, abandoned warehouse by the roadside. I parked the truck with the engine still running, jumped from the cab, and ran inside. My chest ached like it was about to explode. At the back of the warehouse, I found a toppled shelf and, among the debris, a cassette recorder, still working. I pressed rec and began to speak. "My name is Jack Morley, trucker for 32 years. If you're hearing this, I made a bad choice. I saw what I shouldn't have, heard things no one should. The police, it's not just the police. They know, they control these roads. They choose who lives and who disappears. Route 37 isn't on maps for a reason. Footsteps, muffled voices, a flashlight beam on the far wall. If someone finds this run, burn this truck. Never talk to strangers at gas stations after midnight. And for God's sake, never, ever touch a tablet that isn't yours." The recording ends there. Days later, the police found Jack's truck at the same spot where he stopped. It was empty, no sign of Jack, only his recorder still playing. And the tablet? It was never found. My name is Jake Wallace. 27 years driving the roads of the West Coast. I've hauled it all, used furniture, cattle, even coffins for a crematorium in Reno, but nothing. Nothing prepared me for what I encountered that early morning. I got the job offer through a freight app, one of those new ones that connects drivers to companies that prefer to stay anonymous. The route was odd. Leave from El Centro, California, and go straight up the I-15 to Salt Lake City. Urgency, secrecy, and an outrageous payment, triple the average. I arrived at the loading point at 3 in the morning. It wasn't a warehouse. It was an unmarked shed surrounded by containers and with no internet signal. 2 men waited with their faces covered by scarves and low-brimmed caps. One held a clipboard, the other a red seal. "Don't open it. Don't ask questions. Fast delivery. You get paid upon arrival. No contract, no paperwork. Just a QR code to scan at the end." What really bothered me was the way they avoided my eyes. As if they knew I wouldn't want to know. I signed digitally. The metallic sound of the trailer door closing echoed through the yard. The seal was applied to the latch. It wasn't electronic. It was physical, manual, like the old ones. In the rearview mirror, I saw the two of them returning to the shed without saying a word. A silence as heavy as lead lingered in the air. I started the engine and drove off. The cargo was heavy. The money spoke louder. But something about it all stuck in my throat. A feeling that would stay with me the entire trip. It was past 5 in the morning when I left the lights of Las Vegas behind. The road ahead was just darkness and dry desert bushes. The sky was starting to brighten in shades of gray, but there was no comfort in that dawn. I was in the middle of the Nevada desert when I heard the first knock. Subtle, a muffled thud coming from the back of the truck. I thought it was something poorly tied down, maybe a box slipping. I turned up the radio. Johnny Cash, as usual. But the knocking returned. 3, then 4, rhythmic, as if someone were asking to be let out. I downshifted, the truck groaned, and I pulled over. I got out with a wrench in hand. The sun was rising behind the mountains, but the air was still cold. I walked to the back and stared at the seal, red, intact, polished steel, no cracks. I pressed my ear to the door and heard nothing. Just my imagination, I muttered. But it wasn't. Later, I stopped at a gas station near Mesquite. I met another trucker fueling up, older, gray beard, wary eyes. "You heading up the 15 to Utah?" he asked, without taking his eyes off my truck. I nodded. He tilted his head, as if weighing whether to say more. "I've heard of that cargo. They pay a lot. It's not the kind of thing you want to haul. You know what it is?" He didn't answer. He just said, "If they paid too much, something's wrong. Just telling you, kid. Don't stop at night. And don't open that trailer." I got back in the truck with my stomach twisted. That knock, it wasn't just in my head, it was a warning. And I had already passed the point of turning back. Night fell too fast. The sky that once looked like a field of gray turned into absolute darkness. I was just a few miles from a remote stop near Beaver Dam, almost at the Nevada-Utah border. I felt like I couldn't drive much further without a break. The knocks returned, this time stronger, and with them came sounds that shouldn't have been there. Weak voices, muffled and desperate. "Hello, please." I pulled the truck onto the shoulder, headlights still on. I got out without thinking, fists clenched, heart pounding like it wanted to flee before I did. I walked to the back. The red seal still glinted under the tail light. But it didn't matter anymore. With a tire iron, I broke the seal in 2 swings. The latch gave way with a metallic snap and the door opened. 5 people were inside. Men, women, young adults. Wide-eyed, sweaty-skinned, dirty clothes. One of them could barely sit. A woman pointed to her throat, asking for water. They were all dehydrated, starving, in panic. Their eyes begged what their voices no longer could. "Please help us," said one of the men, his heavy Latin accent unmistakable. I just stood there, every cell in my body freezing. I knelt down and handed them a water bottle I had in the cab. They drank like they hadn't touched water in days. I went back to the truck and tried calling the police, but there was no signal. That's when I saw the reflection of headlights in the side mirror. A black SUV, no plates, slowly approaching on the road, headlights off. It wasn't the police. I jumped back into the driver's seat without thinking. Started the engine and sped off, nearly skidding on the shoulder. The truck responded like a frightened bull. In the mirror, the black SUV was still behind me. It wasn't speeding up, just keeping pace, like it knew time was on its side. The people in the back were silent now, but I could feel the weight of their despair. Driving was automatic. Eyes on the road, mind in chaos. Who were these people? And who were those men? I remembered what the old trucker had said. They've got people everywhere. It clicked. I wasn't just a driver, I was an accomplice. A link in the chain of human trafficking. And now, I was a witness. The CB radio crackled on Channel 19, Jake Wallace, pull over. Hand over the cargo, and you live. I choked on my saliva. No one should know my name. I turned off the radio. Started thinking of alternative routes, places I could disappear from the radar. I decided to cut through a service road that passed through a rural area before Cedar City. It was narrow and full of potholes, but unmonitored. The truck bounced through the turns, the weight of the cargo making every curve a struggle. But the SUV kept pace, always the same distance, always silent. City lights were far away now, only headlights cutting through the void. The road was closing in on me, and I knew by now I couldn't deliver anyone anymore. Either all of us got out or none of us would. I had two options: disappear like so many others, or risk everything to at least leave a trail. I grabbed my phone and, with the weak signal flickering between the mountains, recorded a message, quick, unedited. My name is Jake Wallace, trucker. I'm being followed. Live cargo, I-15 route. This is human trafficking. If this recording leaks, find me, please. I sent the message to a journalist I'd met years ago, someone who used to talk about the dark routes of American highways. Then I deleted all the phone's data, left it in the truck's glove box, and activated the GPS for a new route. Hospitals. I needed to reach one, a public place, visible and noisy. I picked an emergency room in St. George, crossed into Utah with high beams on and the engine roaring like it knew the urgency. But when I got to the hospital, I saw something that froze my blood. 3 cruisers were already waiting, but none had local police markings. They were federal vehicles, unmarked, men in black stepping out with earpieces. They looked straight at the cab. No surprise in their eyes. They knew I was coming. I did what I could. The recording was made, the location sent. The victims' faces captured on the hospital's security cameras. I stepped out of the truck with my hands up, ready to shout the truth. But no one let me speak. A black van blocked my view. After that, I saw nothing. Days later, Jake's truck was found abandoned and empty. No clues about what happened. But the recording surfaced online anonymously, shared on whistleblower forums and human rights groups. The video ends with my voice saying, "They've got routes the map doesn't show, and no one wants to look at it. But now, you know." Jake Wallace vanished from the map. To this day, no one knows where he went. Those were his last words. My name is Mike Randall. 42 years on the road and over 2 million miles driven. I've seen it all. Accidents that looked like movie scenes, motels where time had stopped, and rest stops so silent even the wind seemed scared. But what truly changed my life was what I found in a shipment labeled industrial equipment. It was fall in Georgia. The transport company offered me an urgent delivery with a cash bonus. The itinerary was odd, few stops, all tightly scheduled. When I accidentally broke the truck seal during a border inspection, I found what I wasn't supposed to: automatic rifles, ammunition packed in fake boxes, and military-grade GPS units. I did what I thought was right. I waited for the delivery to finish, and a week later went to a local ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives office. I told them everything. Gave names, license plates, dates, even screenshots from the app with the shipment request. The agent listened carefully, took notes, and thanked me with a handshake far too cold for what I had just done. I returned to the road with a clear conscience. But strangely, no one called me for jobs anymore. Routes disappeared. Dispatchers stopped answering. Messages on the apps were read and ignored. Until a fellow trucker passed by at a stop and muttered when he saw me, "You should have kept your mouth shut, Mike." That's when I knew it wasn't just a trafficking ring. It was a system, and I was officially out of it. Only, unlike what they thought, I wasn't done with the road. The first few weeks were silent hell. I tried to convince myself it was coincidence, that transport companies were low on demand, that the scheduling system had glitched. But it was impossible to ignore. My name had vanished from the lists. No loads, no calls. I spent sleepless nights waiting for something that never came. At the stops, I began to notice the looks. Truckers who once shared coffee and conversation now looked away or turned their backs. A mechanic in Birmingham refused to check my brakes, even with cash in hand. "Some trucks are better left untouched," he said flatly. I started avoiding contact, sleeping with the cab locked. But even so, the message got through. First on my windshield, a dirty piece of paper, handwritten. "We don't forget." Then, an envelope taped to my side mirror with a simple warning, "You talked." They were signs. As if the system wasn't just excluding me, I was marked. I called the same ATF agent who had listened to me weeks earlier. Voicemail. Tried again days later. Nothing. I grew suspicious and decided to search his name online. That's when the shock hit. The agent didn't exist in any public records. It was as if he had never existed. I went to the local police. They listened out of courtesy, jotted down the basics, and told me to move on. "You didn't see anything, and you'd better not start making things up. Understand, Randall?" That's when I truly understood. They were everywhere. I had no more safe road to follow. Only the way back or a head-on collision. What started with silence turned into terror with explicit signs. I woke up at a Tennessee rest stop to find my truck scratched from end to end. The words were marked with something that looked like rust, but the smell suggested something else. Dried blood. "We don't forgive." I started the engine with trembling hands and drove off without even cleaning the windows. I just wanted to get away. But no matter where I went, the feeling was the same. Watched, monitored, sentenced. I tried seeking support in online forums, independent trucker groups. No one replied. The few who did begged me to stop posting. "You want to die? Let it go, Mike." I knew I couldn't trust anyone anymore. So I bought a micro camera and installed it in the cab. Started recording conversations, stops, faces. And most importantly, I tried to capture license plates, codes, anything that might help. One night I caught something. An SUV parked next to my truck at a deserted stop. 3 men got out. One walked up to my truck, opened the fuel cap, looked through the window, and left another note. "Next time, we cut your brakes." I saved the video to a USB drive hidden in the seatback and sent encrypted copies to a freelance journalist who had previously exposed corruption in the transport industry. I explained everything by email. Hours later, the journalist's site went offline. I began to understand. This wasn't a network. It was a system with roots deeper than I imagined. And now, I was a crack in the smooth pavement they wanted to preserve. My only mistake was thinking I could trust. My only right move was recording everything. No official routes, no payments, no future. I decided to flee. I took a simple load with clean documents from an unknown company that contacted me via email. I knew it was risky, but I had to move. I planned a route off the radar, through back roads between Kentucky and Illinois, far from the interstates where I knew they were waiting. I left at dusk, turned on the camera, phone in airplane mode, printed map. Every bit of paranoia a man can carry behind a wheel. But a single fuel stop at a forgotten roadside village turned the game. I was in the convenience store, paying cash, when I saw a truck parked next to mine. Engine off, dark windows, no front plate. I tried to leave quietly, but as I neared my cab, I noticed something in the side mirror of the other truck. A black ribbon. A code among veterans, warning sign. That was no coincidence. I returned to my truck slowly, started the engine. When I checked the mirror, the other truck started too. Then the chase began. I took a secondary road full of sharp turns and poor visibility. The headlights behind me never backed off. Sometimes they'd vanish for seconds, and when they returned, They were closer. The CP radio started crackling again. Channel 19, always. Randall, it's over. Pull over. No one will hear you scream out here. I ignored it. Took the last route I knew to disappear. An old mining road that cut through the forest. But the truck behind followed too. They didn't want to arrest me. They wanted to erase every trace. But I still had one weapon, my story. And now it had to get out, even if I didn't. I parked the truck where the mining road widened. No light except the headlights. The engine creaked, tires reeked of burnt rubber, and the smell of scorched oil filled everything. The other truck stopped about 100 yards behind. Headlights off, silence. I grabbed my backup phone, already set to record and send the video automatically, positioned it on the dashboard. Took a deep breath. My name is Mike Randall. If you're watching this, I'm probably not around anymore. My voice trembled, but I went on. They have a list, a blacklist. If you talk too much, if you report, you end up on it. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's real. Shell companies, ghost haulers, dirty cops, and truckers who stay quiet out of fear or greed. I showed the videos I recorded. Plates, faces, threats, data, everything. They followed me, marked me, isolated me. Now they want to erase me. But this recording is being sent automatically to 6 different destinations, and to journalists who still have courage. I floored it, sending the truck down a narrow trail toward an abandoned quarry. I needed time. Time for the upload to finish. The recording ends with a loud sound, the snap of brakes. Then silence. 2 days later, Mike's truck was found parked at the bottom of the quarry. No signs of struggle, no blood. Just the cab open and the phone smashed on the ground. But the video was already online, shared, viral, multiplied. Mike's face made headlines. Forums and newscasts brave enough to break the silence. The road swallowed Mike Randall, but his voice echoed in every mile paved by truth.